Hello. So this is going to be a really quick video on what you do when you're at home and you got a wheel set up. I know that we're starting to rent out wheels at Penguin Foot. So kind of just how to manage wet clay to be able to get that back into circulation as fast as possible. So, like let's say I screw something up, like I've screwed up here royally. This is hilariously bad. And I want to get it off the wheel and get it dried up and back to throwing consistency. So you're going to want to get it off the wheel first, obviously. Do that however you want, right? Wire tool cuts it off really nicely. It's not within arm's reach for me right now, so I'm not going to use a wire tool. I'm just going to kind of do this rather hastily, right? Without too much care. Get some of this off the wheel head. So really there's nothing to it. You could just kind of leave this out if you wanted, and this would eventually dry out enough that you could kind of wedge it and homogenize it. But a nice trick is called making rainbows. Sure, there are other potters with other words for this other than rainbow, but this is what we choose to use at Penguin Foot. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of pinching it out into a long sausage, and I'll put this on a wooden board or something, right? If you just leave it on like your wheel head or something that's solid and not porous, water won't get wicked out of whatever point of contact it's sitting on. But also this kind of rainbow shape allows air to pass through the bottom, top, allows for like nice even drying, whereas if it was just like a big bunch, you'd get some uneven clumps, right? If your clay is super sloppy and you think it's going to take a long time to dry and it's still holding its shape this way, you can kind of, put some finger marks in. All that does is it really just increases the surface area so that it dries faster. So, let's say you've done this and it's reached a solid consistency and you're ready to kind of get it back on the wheel. What do you wedge it on? And what is wedging, if you don't know what wedging is, right? So my home studio setup is pretty janky, kind of ghetto, super jerry-rigged and stuff. So I don't have a wedging table. I just have this thing. It's a large wooden board with some canvas over it. You don't even need the canvas, really. Just a wooden board would work fine as long as it's not the kind of wood that splinters, because then you'll get wood in your clay. You might get some splinters on your hands. But yeah, this is a wedging board, and I can kind of show you guys really quick what wedging is for those of you who don't know. It's just going to be tricky to find a good way to situate the camera. I've been trying to figure this out, but wedging board goes on the ground. I kneel when I wedge at home. So let's pretend that this is at the consistency that we want it to be. Slap it on there and then I'll move the camera around. And I'll be back with the wedging. All right, and we're back. So this is that same lump. I just kind of threw it onto the wedging board before I cut the camera off just now. I apologize that I have the camera on the floor. This is just the way things are here. But wedging, right? So what wedging serves to do, I'm just going to do it while I talk about why we do it, and then I'll explain how we do it. So what wedging serves to do is it aligns all of the particles inside the actual clay body. It also serves to kind of force out any air bubbles that might be sitting in your clay, especially after you've rainbowed it and stuff like I just showed you. When you're putting it into a ball like this, you're bound to get some air bubbles in there. So what I'm doing is just wedging it up, getting all that stuff out, homogenizing all the clay that we got here, and it'll be ready to throw after I do this. Right? Now, what am I doing? I think this is a decent view so that you can see what's going on, but So my hand positioning, my wrists are really close together, if not touching, right, on the clay. The heels of my wrists are what's doing all the pushing down. And it's really not just to push down, because that would look like this. I'm just squishing it over on itself. It's really kind of pushing down and a little bit forward at the same time, right? Do it once, roll it up a little bit, same motion, do it again, same motion, do it again, same motion. Pushing down with the heels of my wrists and slightly forward, right? So it ends up looking kind of like this without the clay. I'm really just thinking about moving this portion, right? You kind of think about it like a cement mixer or like an auger. This cylinder here, if you can picture a tube, is where the mixing happens. These lips are what get drawn into the mixing tube, which is this guy, right? This is called dog nose or ram's head wedging because it looks kind of like an animal face. You guys can see with that lighting. Eyeballs, lips, nose, whatever, right? Common mistakes for people when they first start to do this is they'll get it going and then they'll just like push way too much, create these huge indentations and like a large amount of space to cover, so that when you wedge it again, you're folding an air bubble in there. You don't want to do that. Other tips and tricks, I guess, like how many times you should do this. There's really no hard science. I was told when I was learning 50 times one direction, 50 times another direction. Really though, realistically, when I throw for myself, I'll probably wedge 50 times just total, and just hope that there are no air bubbles. Work out the rest on the wheel when I cone and wheel wedge, stuff like that, right? So you see here, you can really see how that spiraling works. These lips are cultivated as you push down, and then those lips spiral in on themselves in this little cylinder area. So kind of, I can show you this way. This, right? So I just made another fold, and we're repeating that motion. Takes a lot of practice, just like anything else in pottery. I'm still getting better and better at this as I do more and more. You can also spiral wedge, which is the exact same thing, just kind of more skewed off in an angle. So you're doing the same thing, except the tube isn't a tube, it's a cone. Kind of a cone. Right here, you can see like kind of an ice cream cone shape, right? But I'm talking too much at this point, so purpose of the video has been fulfilled. A few other things to keep in mind. If you've got your own space, wooden boards, just in general, just for drying rainbows, are great. I don't know, I don't think I can turn this around, but shelves, great idea. Mine are incredibly messy, but it's the way it is. Otherwise, be conscious of water. I have well, aside from other buckets of water and clay here, this water is strictly for washing my hands. If you wash your hands in your sink after you've been playing with clay at home, you will destroy your sink and your plumbing. And no one wants to do that. I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything. Probably have, but this is the video for today. Thanks, folks.